If you've ever read the Harry Potter books, you know that they are filled with excitement, action, and of course, magic. One of my favorite bonding activities with my mom growing up was reading the Harry Potter books at the same time as her and then discussing our favorite parts. Occasionally, I will reread them just to feel the nostalgia and mysticism again. I can't imagine being unable to read them, and yet there have been countless attempts to ban them. In 2022, there were 1,269 attempts to ban books, which at the time was the highest number recorded. I believe that banning books is a detriment to society and people's ability to think freely, and after you hear the facts and ideas I've gathered, I think you will agree. Today, I will explain why it would be inappropriate and wrong to ban books based on individual beliefs and ideas. In 2023, the American Library Association found that more than 4,200 books were petitioned to be removed from schools and their libraries. The most contested books are ones that contain sexually explicit content, offensive language, and ones that are deemed unsuited to any age group. Without any context, this might not seem like a bad idea. However, in Missouri, Senate Bill 775 used such broad language to criminalize teachers and librarians for giving students books that had sexual material that it could have included health and sex education books. Imagine a health teacher trying to teach sex education, a required course, without any references to sexual education. Let's take a look at the top 10 books that were banned between the years 2010 and 2019. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, Captain Underpants series, 13 Reasons Why, Looking for Alaska, and Tango Makes 3, Drama, 50 Shades of Grey, Internet Girls, and The Bluest Eye. Around 100 librarians, lawyers, activists, teachers, and even students attended the Banned Books and Libraries Under Attack conference in 2024 to discuss the issues surrounding these books. One of the keynote speakers was Ashley Perez, who wrote Out of Darkness, a book set in 1937 Texas that mentions experiences of racism and sexual assault. This book is reportedly one of the most banned books in the United States. Perez reminded everyone at the conference that young people are already experiencing racism and sexual assault, and by banning her book, people are refusing to confront these ideas, and it doesn't help young people who are actually experiencing these things. Restricting access to information not only hinders students' ability to access material directly related to them, but it is also possibly a violation of the First Amendment due to the fact that it restricts students' right to receive information. In Texas, a mom named Leela Green Little started a group to oppose the banning of books such as Gary Goose and His Gas on the Loose, which was being banned due to the words fart and butt. In response to her activism, parents who wanted to ban the books started calling the group pornographers and groomers. Little eventually had to hire an attorney, and now she is a plaintiff in a First Amendment lawsuit. Book banning has a negative effect on teacher morale and student learning, according to a new study. 71% of educators believe that banning books undermines their expertise, makes them feel distrusted, and increases their stress. Educators admit that book banning has affected which books they choose for class, even if their particular school hasn't banned any books yet. Students are feeling the impacts as well, and it has been reported that 31% of conversations being had between the educators and the students about the bans are initiated by the students themselves. Educators believe that students' engagement with reading is lower when books are banned. According to some teachers, reading scores improved when students were allowed to choose what books they were reading in class, and they then talked amongst each other about what the books were about and shared empathy for the characters. As we can see from the Banned Books and Libraries Under Attack conference, there are groups that are coming together to fight the injustices seen with book banning. We have recently seen an increase in the number of books being banned or attempted to be banned, and there are several ways to combat this. Speakers at the conference say that groups have been forming to advocate for First Amendment rights. Parents are creating their own advocacy groups, and some of these groups are even initiating lawsuits. Katie Schwartzman, director of the Tulane Law School's First Amendment Clinic, spoke about her organization, which won 6 censorship cases. Apparently, her organization just wrote letters to elected officials to warn them that the legislation they were proposing would break the law, and the politicians backed off the proposals or outright reversed any laws that had already been put into place. Another great way to combat these book bans is to simply read the books that are on the various ban lists. Since 1982, every September, libraries celebrate Banned Books Week, in which they promote the most banned books in an effort to combat censorship and protect intellectual freedom. Ashley Perez also believes that people should be reading banned books, but takes it a step further and says that readers should try to find the positives about the books and then stand up for these titles. Another great way to protest book banning is to speak out about it, something the former chair of the American Library Association's Intellectual Freedom Committee, Pat Scales, also advocates for. He suggested organizing a discussion panel or holding a lecture about the right to read and the First Amendment. He encourages teens to get involved as well by adding banned books to local little free libraries and by starting banned book clubs in their area. Now that we've talked about the current events surrounding banning books and a few solutions that could change the course, let's discuss what might happen if we aren't successful in our pushback, along with some of the positives if we are successful. The first people to feel the effects will likely be students, as they are the ones that seem to be targeted specifically. Students say that reading about characters they relate to helps them feel more confident, but because of the book bans, a lot of the same students said that they struggle to find books like this. If people keep banning books, these students are going to struggle even more, and some may even stop looking for the books altogether. One study found that when students read for pleasure rather than for an assignment, their overall grade point average increased. We should foster students' love for reading and keep as many options open as possible. The second group of people that will be affected is librarians and other educators. As I mentioned earlier, educators already report that morale is down due to book bans, and they are being extra cautious when choosing reading material for the class due to a fear of backlash or worse, losing their jobs. Recently, there have been new laws and proposed laws that could actually put educators in jail or fine them if they don't follow the censorship mentioned within the law. The bill I mentioned earlier, 775, would fine educators more than $500 or potentially jail them for up to a year if they didn't comply with the censorship the bill proposed. How can we expect our educators to be focused on teaching our children to the best of their ability if instead they're constantly stressed about the potential to go to jail? Ensuring access to all books is simply best for society. When people read about characters that are different race, sexual orientation, or gender than themselves, they are more inclined to feel connected with and empathy for real people who are different than them. We can see this in some of the research that I've done to prepare for this speech, but we can also see this from experience. Some of you, if not all, were probably asked to read To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee when you were in school. Did you not feel connected to Tom Robinson or even Boo Radley? This likely helped you feel connected to other people that are different as well. Students that have access to these books that might not relate to themselves, but to that of their peers, will hopefully have a better understanding of the people around them and the correct way to interact with them. I implore all of you to get involved any way you can. Donate to one of the educator funds that are currently working against book bans. Go to your local library or bookstore and pick up a book that has been banned. Read it, share about it, and encourage others to read it too. If nothing else, educate yourself further on the ways banning books harms our children and our rights. As you can see, book banning negatively affects everyone and should be stopped. With all the information I've provided, I hope you know that while there is a book banning problem, there are multiple solutions.